The story begins in an interrogation room where Vincent Stevens is being questioned in lieu of a recently murdered woman that was found in his big city high-rise loft. Vincent says that he had nothing to do with it, but the police ask him to tell the whole story from the beginning in hopes it will lead them to find out who really is responsible for her death. We then flash back to a little earlier where Luke Secord, a tenant of the high-rise loft, walking into the room one morning and finding the girl murdered and handcuffed to the bed. 5 men share the loft amongst themselves as a place to bring their mistresses to so they can cheat on their wives and not get caught. Pretty scummy if you ask me, but I digress. Luke calls the others and tells them to come to the loft immediately. Vincent shows up first, and Luke tells him that the alarm was off and everything was locked when he got there, so the only way someone could have gotten in is with a key, and only 5 people in the world have one. 2 of the other guys show up to the loft, and their names are Chris Van Looy and Marty Landry. The 5th tenant that hasn't shown up is Philip Tronner, and no one has been able to get a hold of him yet. Chris tells them they are going to figure out what happened and then find a solution together. We then jump a year earlier where all of the guys are at a party that is celebrating the opening of Vincent's new building, as he is a structural architect. All of the guys have their wives with them as well, and a lady at the party, and Morris, walks up to Chris and introduces herself to him, and his wife looks very displeased with him. We also get to meet the 5th guy of the group, Philip, who actually is single at the moment, but is best friends with the other guys. Vincent grabs all of the guys, and they head up to the loft where he explains to them they can all share the room together for whatever they want and to get away from their families every once in a while. We then jump back to present day, where Marty finds a note written in blood on the headboard that says Fatum nos jungibit, which is Latin for fate will unite us. The detectives ask Chris what he knows about Latin, and he tells them that he took a Latin course in college, and they think he may have been the one that wrote down the phrase, but he says it wasn't him. Back earlier at the loft, Philip finally arrives, and Luke tries to strangle him, but the others break them up. Another flashback to Philip's wedding where he has finally tied the knot with a woman, so that solidifies all of the 5 guys being in loving marriages. This is the infamous moment that Vincent hands all of the guys a key to the loft with their wives literally right next to them. Chris is against the whole cheating thing until he runs into, and at the wedding, and he has a change of heart on the room as he clearly has a thing for her. A few months after the wedding, all of the couples are having dinner together at Chris's house, and there is definitely some tension between Chris and his wife because she is upset that he never is home and has been working late more often than not. Marty gets pretty drunk and starts blabbering about how he would cheat and not get caught if he did, but then Luke knocks over his chair before he can say too much. Back at the loft the morning of the murder, Vincent asks him if they told anyone about the loft even by accident or when they were drunk because he thinks they might have been set up by someone. He asks if any of them are in trouble or if they wives may have found out and are doing this as revenge. We then see a flashback of Chris and Ann hooking up in the loft, and afterwards, he tells her that he loves her and wants to leave his wife, but this upsets her and she leaves because she doesn't want to be a homewrecker. Back to the interrogation room in the present, and the detectives are asking Marty how his wife found out that he was cheating on her. Marty says they hooked up with each other at a convention in San Diego, and she got attached and followed him to Los Angeles one day to his actual house, and she confronted his wife. His wife also filed for divorce after she found out, but the mistress and the dead woman are not the same person, he explains. While the detectives do know this to be true, they tell Marty that they know the woman that ended up dead in their loft was best friends with the woman that Marty was cheating with. It turns out at the same convention Marty hooked up with the other woman. Vincent was there as well, and he met Sarah Deakins, who is the woman that was found dead in the loft. A flashback shows Vincent, Marty, and Luke hanging out with Sarah and Dana on the roof of their hotel room after the convention. Sarah and Vincent went skinny dipping in the pool, while Luke just sat there and watched like a creep. Marty and Dana also went off on their own to get the deed done. Luke was playing fifth wheel, but was also the only person not cheating on his wife. Back to the night before the murder in the loft, Vincent broke up with Sarah because she told him she loved him and wanted to be with him. Vincent didn't want to tear his family apart by leaving his wife and children for Sarah, and this broke her heart. Vincent then tells the others what happened and how he was actually there yesterday, but still insists that he didn't kill her. Someone then buzzes the radio in their room and says they are there to see the loft, which the guys find weird because no one listed it as available for showing. A flashback then shows Chris finding and inside a store, and he gives his loft key to her to show that he truly cares about her. At the loft, all of the guys are arguing because a few of them want to remove the body and get it out of the room, and the others want to call the cops to come and deal with the mess. Vincent asks if any of them have the keys to the handcuffs, and no one speaks up and says they do. Vincent then remembers a night that they found Philip in the loft with a woman, and he had her handcuffed to the bed because she threatened to turn him in for assault. Chris shows up and does his best to console the woman and try to talk her down from going to the police. Chris lets her free of the handcuffs and gives her all of the cash in his wallet to not say a thing, and she agrees and leaves, but calls Philip an animal as she is storming out. Jumping back to present day, Luke tells the guys that he needs to show them something of importance. He then goes down with a few of them to the basement where he has a security camera system set up and films the inside of the loft whenever he wants. So basically he's an extreme creep, and Philip punches him for being so. Vincent asks Luke if he recorded the night before, and he says no because no one told the group they would be there. Anytime one of the guys uses the room, they are supposed to message the others, but Vincent didn't even know he was there the day prior. Another flashback takes place where all of the guys and their wives are at a city gala raising money for a charity. Philip sees Vincent eyeing his sister, and he is not happy about it, and is trying to make sure nothing happens between the two because Philip and Vincent don't always see eye to eye, but he knows Vincent has a thing for his sister. At the same time, and texts Chris and tells him to meet her in the bathroom, and she tells him the truth that Vincent paid her to hook up with Chris, and that is the only reason they ever got together. Vincent wanted dirt on Chris just in case he ever threatened to tell his wife what he's been doing. Philip then tells his sister to leave as he doesn't want her there, but then a guy next to them tells Philip she can make decisions for herself, and then Philip punches the guy and gets kicked out of the party. Philip's sister is then upset, and Vincent makes her feel better, but Sarah sees all of this happening and is not pleased as she wants Vincent all to herself. She tells Vincent that she will tell his wife if he doesn't leave her for Sarah. Back at the loft, Vincent is getting very dizzy and falls over knocked out. The other guys actually had drugged his drink a little earlier so he would pass out. As he is dozing off, he asks them if they killed Sarah, and they say no, but they did find her this morning before anyone contacted him, and they are sure he is responsible for her death. We then jump to that same morning where all of the guys are around the bed staring at Sarah, but she hasn't been cut open. There are a bunch of pills lying around her, so it's safe to assume that she did this to herself. And there's also a note that says, "See you in the next life." Luke then takes them down to the camera room, and he shows all of the guys videos of Vincent hooking up with numerous girls. Among those girls are Marty's wife, Philip's sister, and also Morris, who he paid to seduce Chris. The guys are disgusted to see this. Back up in the loft, the guys concoct a plan to lure Vincent there and try their best to get a confession from him so they can be sure that this was his fault. They have Philip stay back at the loft to make sure no one else comes and starts wondering what happened to Sarah. Bad idea because Philip starts thinking about Vincent hooking up with his sister, and he loses it and cuts Sarah open to take his anger out on. Later that day, they undress Vincent while passed out and lay him next to Sarah to make the scene look like he killed her after a rampage. Back in the interrogation room the following day, Vincent is trying to explain to the detectives that it was all a setup, but he has no proof of that at all. The detectives aren't buying it and are pretty sure he is their guy. The detective then goes into Chris's room and tells him he is good to go, but they are charging Vincent with murder. This confuses Chris because he thought it was a self-inflicted death by pills, but the detective tells him that the pills didn't actually kill her, and the cuts and blood loss actually did. Philip truly murdered her, not Vincent or the pills. Vincent will now be put away forever for something he didn't do unless the truth comes out. Chris messages Luke and asks him to meet him at the loft, and whenever they get there, Chris asks Luke why he took Sarah's goodbye note and didn't leave it be. The note was the main part for the death to look like an overdose, but the note was never found in the loft. Luke then spills the beans and tells Chris he killed her because he was in love with Sarah, but was furious she kept choosing Vincent over him. Luke gave her an insulin overdose and thought it would kill her, but he was wrong. Chris tells him Philip really killed her on accident, but Luke was the one that should be charged for attempted murder. Chris tells him the police are on the way, so the two get into a fight, and Luke, knowing his life is over, jumps off of the balcony to his death. The movie ends with finding Chris at the courthouse and asking him to have a cup of coffee with her. And that is it for this one, friends. Any other movies or series I should do? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.